Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're impartially unpacking a deeply provocative text, one that connects massive macroeconomic labor demands directly to the most personal, micro-level decision a human being can possibly make, the choice to have children. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so let's dive in by confronting a somewhat dark perspective posed by the source material regarding our actual role in the global economy. The author challenges us to view our place in the world not just as free citizens, but as functional, necessary components, literally required to keep an immense economic machine turning. Are we just fleshy working machines?
To really grasp this, we first need to look at the massive global forces at play. Section 1. The macroeconomy.
The argument here is that since the Industrial Revolution, our global economic system's absolute desperation for endless growth inherently requires a continuously expanding population. It's a numbers game, right? But today, because wealthy Western societies, what the text calls the imperial core, have largely stopped producing enough children to sustain this growth, a massive shift happens. The global South, driven by pure necessity, willingly steps up to supply the essential labor force required to keep those Western systems moving.
Let's look at the construction workforce in Europe, which brilliantly illustrates this demographic reality on the ground. Western Europeans are increasingly avoiding dangerous, dirty manual labor. Now, historically, these roles were filled by Eastern Europeans from places like Romania, Croatia, and Serbia. But as those specific workers become more expensive, the gravity of labor demand pulls increasingly for Middle Eastern and Sub-Saharan migrating populations to fill the void.
Now, this economic reality creates massive friction when it crashes into domestic politics. Section 2. The political paradox.
What's really fascinating here is how the source contrasts far-right political rhetoric with systemic economic reliance on migrant labor. On one side of this framework, we have domestic citizens who completely refuse to dig ditches or unclog pipes, yet simultaneously demand ethnic homogeneity. And on the flip side, we have migrants fleeing brutal conflicts who have lost everything and must do that exact dirty work simply to survive.
The text concludes that without this constant influx of cheap labor, the entire economic system literally collapses. Because domestic citizens just won't do the dirty work, political promises in the imperial core to completely close borders are rendered totally economically unviable. The machine demands its labor, whatever it takes.
So, if the macroeconomy relies on migration to fill lower-level gaps, how does the system maintain stability among its domestic workers? Section 3. The meso-level. Families as economic cogs.
The author observes that the vast majority of people blindly follow what they call an institutional pipeline. You know the one: school, marriage, house, children, retirement, and finally, death. These milestones are written and propagated by institutions, and most of us walk right through this script without ever stopping to question its validity or if it truly makes us happy. We just do it because it's what we're told to do.
Here is the crucial point the text makes. Having children effectively makes people profoundly conservative, meaning parents become fearful of change and obsessed with maintaining the status quo. Think about the economic constraints. Parents have mortgages to pay and mouths to feed urgently. They simply cannot risk losing their jobs. Socially, this makes it incredibly hard to protest, organize, or strike. It even creates a fear of divorce, trapping people in abusive dynamics simply for the sake of stability. The heavy responsibilities of family basically end radical sentiment.
Which leads us to a rather chilling definition from the source. In the eyes of corporations and governments, a parent with too much to lose becomes an easily coerced, perfect machine. Think about it. If a single person fails to pay bills and becomes homeless, they suffer alone. But a parent cannot forcibly drag their children into the abyss of poverty. That intense, undeniable pressure guarantees absolute obedience to their employers.
Let's zoom in one step further to the individual. Section 4. The micro level. The millennial dilemma. The explainer bluntly weighs two sides of a tough debate for younger generations. On one hand, you have historically selfish drives, acting on biological urges, the desire for free labor, or seeking personal fulfillment posturing as purpose. But on the other hand, you have modern dystopian realities. Millennials are facing the very real dread of bringing a new life into a collapsing capitalist world, witnessing dying ecosystems, and wrestling with the ultimate ethical hurdle of forcing a brief existence onto a being without their consent. From this highly skeptical viewpoint, having a child isn't just an act of self-sacrifice, it's a massive gamble with another entire person's fate. You are basically rolling the dice on their brain chemistry, their ability to adhere to strict social norms, and completely uncontrollable external factors. Ultimately, it exposes them to the inherent suffering and pain generally involved in living, often just so they can work their entire life for nothing.
So, where does all of this leave us? Section 5, Conclusion, the absurdity of choice.
Despite outlining this incredibly cynical economic trap, the source actually arrives at a surprisingly neutral conclusion regarding your personal agency. The author emphasizes that, yes, while governments absolutely want you to reproduce to sustain the machine with coerced workers, you shouldn't sacrifice your own happiness if you genuinely desire a family. There's no honor in being a martyr just to spite the system. You only get one life, and you should live it exactly the way you see fit.
Understanding the sheer absurdity of existence and the cold economic mechanics of this global machine, we leave you to ponder one final question. Will you blindly follow the institutional script, or will you write your own? Thank you for joining us for this explainer. Keep learning and keep questioning the script.